right team composition for a successful product strictly depends on the scope of work and the vision of the founder, or let's say owner of the product. And those roles are important to deliver something meaningful. And let's start with the analysis. So there has to be performed analysis in scope of what job has to be done, and how we define what is the job, and who are the respondents that are competent to answer the question, what is the job that should be done. And this role has to be covered by, let's say, product experience or product expertise. Without this knowledge or without this step, the success of the product is completely dependent on the luck. Because it's also possible, like there are a lot of lucky people who can deliver the product that makes sense, and they have a vision, they have an idea, they have a pain, and they decide that, okay, based on the fact that they do have that pain, they assume or make a hypothesis that everyone else has the same pain, and then they just address this and they solve it the way how they would love to be it solved, and then as a result they have a lot of customers that are satisfied with the solution to their existing problems. But sometimes when we try to address a certain problem, we want to see the market, and different markets, they respond to the problem statement differently. It depends on the ethical group or economical state of the country or society in general or publicity that is in this country, or any other factors that might determine the possibility of the pain existence. Because in some societies, the same pain that we have, for example, it might not exist. And then consider that all the markets are addressable markets is wrong. So this role is covered by product. Product also has to define the priorities and understand and evaluate the features that are going to implement. I'm trying to simplify the things that we speak the common language, and there are certain methodologies and there are certain things that a product role has to go through to identify whether certain implementation of the product part is required or makes sense. And the second role would be, if we talk about let's talk today about only a web development project. The second role would be user experience and user interface implementation, or let's say design. If we talk about the role that might be user experience or user interface designer, the primarily goal that they have to achieve is that they have to take that job to be done, and they have to understand how this can be or how this might be implemented with respect to usability. So users will be satisfied using the product. Not only the problem will be solved, but users will solve the problem in the most convenient way for them. Because sometimes the problem can be solved with the most inconvenient way for the customer, and it's still fine because the problem is solved. There are a lot of examples of products that are terrible in usage, but still everyone uses them, and it's still something that will be on the market and will be used by plenty of users. And for example, if we have government scheduling mechanisms, if I want to go to certain departments to address certain citizen needs, most probably the solution that I will use in most of the countries will be obsolete, and they're difficult to use. And I think the great example here are the embassies in foreign countries. When we have to apply for a visa, for example, we have to schedule an appointment with the ambassador to apply, to bring over this application. And I would say 8% of the solutions that are on the market are terrible, and we are speaking only of the solutions that are not commercialized, like the public available solutions. And this is an exact example. There's a problem to solve, I have to set an appointment. There is a user experience how to do that, like you should wake up at night, you have to stay in the line, and then you might be lucky and eventually schedule this appointment. And there are other companies that address this problem, they try to solve it. But this is a role that has to be also in the team. We have to evaluate what is a convenient way to implement the solution, so it solves the problem for the customer. And then, yes, there has to be a developer. There has to be a developer that will implement the job that should be done, and the user experience that was designed. And you have to write the code, and probably after you wrote the code, this code has to be tested. So another role, which is called assurance engineer. And I said developer initially, but let's say it's a software engineer, and then we have a quality assurance engineer in our team as well. And now we are in a very interesting field, because I brought several different roles from the product perspective, but from the development perspective I had an intention to bring everything under umbrella of the software engineer. But this is a mistake. It should not be like this. There has to be a front-end engineer, there should be a back-end engineer, there should be a development operations engineer, there should be quality assurance engineer. And nowadays I understand that most of the companies are trying to reduce the headcount in the companies and maybe potentially decrease their budget for certain positions, and they might have every role under one sort of umbrella and call it one army man, and then this person does everything. But we can go further and we can say everything in that is just a solopreneur. It's like a solo founder. This is the person that has all necessary roles, or let's say experience or approximation that they do have a certain experience with the roles or knowledge of those roles. And then they try to be as a single founder, they try to cover their overalls in their team to deliver a successful project on the market. But let's go back to the roles. There has to be a role of the salesperson and the person who is responsible for marketing as well. And if we take all these roles, all these hats, that people have to change the hats like of every role. And if we check on the working day or a working week, if we take 40 hours, we clearly see that founder at certain point in future will have a prioritization question. Should I continue doing the product part of our business, or maybe I have to stop doing product and continue with development, or I might stop with development and continue with the quality assurance, or stop with quality assurance and continue with the marketing, for example, or maybe I have to book the sales calls. And this inevitably brings a solopreneur to the position that they want to hire a team that will support them. And yes, Panda International is the team that will support you and will help you. So feel free to reach out to me, and I will take care of every role or position that your startup might potentially required to grow. But if we go back to the implementation of all aspects, there's additional thing that wasn't mentioned. It's project management. It's like delivery management or project management, because when we have our idea, when we have enough internal resources, considering that we won't have the 40 hours week, but we will have, for example, 60 hours weeks, because we want to also organize the work. We want to give our internal product manager what is the timeline for the implementation of the most important features, and we want to give this roadmap also to the salesperson, so salesperson is aware and knows what to expect and when to promise customers what. And then you are in the situation where as solopreneur you're growing the product, and you might fall in the situation when you are growing your product, you are overworking 70 hours a week already, and you just want to have a relief. But when you are in this situation and you want to have a relief, you know what to do.